Free my dad and I'll heal you." Camila's voice sliced through the hospital conference room like a blade. The paralyzed judge in the wheelchair blinked, stunned. Then the laughter started. Nurses, orderlies, even the fancy neurologist hiding his smirk behind a clipboard. "You'll heal me?" Judge Nicholas Quincy scoffed. "Girl, they told me I'll never walk again, and your father is a convicted felon." Camila's hands trembled, but her eyes did not. "Convicted by a broken man," she said softly. "You." The room went quiet as she stepped closer. "You free Vincent Lawson," she whispered, "and I'll prove you were wrong about both of you." The courtroom smelled like old wood, cold coffee, and fear. Camila Turner's legs dangled from the hard wooden bench, her sneakers not quite touching the floor. She was 12 years old and had never been inside a courtroom before. But she knew one thing with perfect burning clarity. The man in the black robe did not like her father. Judge Nicholas Quincy sat high on the bench like a king on a dark throne. Silver hair, sharp jaw, eyes the color of winter steel. His expression didn't move when the defense attorney spoke, didn't flicker when Camila's father, Vincent Lawson, turned and tried to send her a reassuring smile over his shoulder. He wore handcuffs. Vincent always came home from the garage smelling like motor oil and citrus cleaner. He sang badly, laughed loudly, and danced with Camila in the kitchen on Friday nights. He had never worn handcuffs in his life until 3 months ago, when the police pounded on their apartment door at 2:13 a.m. Now he stood accused of armed robbery and assault on a police officer. "Your Honor, the evidence is circumstantial," the defense attorney pleaded. "There were no fingerprints on the weapon, no security footage clearly identifying Mr. Lawson." "The officer identified him," the prosecutor cut in. "Sebastian Jennings. Young, immaculate navy suit, hair parted so precisely it looked measured with a ruler. He didn't look at Camila as he spoke. He never had, through the entire trial. Officer Porter Walker saw the defendant fleeing the store moments after the crime. His testimony is clear. Camila's gaze slid to the witness stand where Officer Porter Walker sat, hands folded, jaw tight. He was the only one who had looked at her, really looked, during the trial. Not with pity, not with contempt, with something like regret. But when Sebastian asked questions, Porter's answers were firm. "Yes, I saw Vincent Lawson. Yes, that's him. Yes, I'm sure." The robbery victim had said the same. The jury had listened. The jury had believed. Now they filed back into the courtroom, the foreman clutching a folded slip of paper like it was nothing more than a grocery list instead of Camila's whole life. "Has the jury reached a verdict?" Judge Quincy asked. "Yes, Your Honor." The paper changed hands. The judge read it, face giving nothing away. The room seemed to hold its breath. Camila squeezed her mother's fingers so hard her nails dug into skin. "On the charge of armed robbery," Quincy said, voice echoing off the high walls, "we find the defendant guilty." Camila's mother let out a terrible sound, half sob, half gasp. It barely faded before the judge spoke again. "On the charge of aggravated assault on a police officer, we find the defendant guilty." The world tilted, then locked into place. Camila stared at her father, waiting for the explosion of outrage, of denial. Instead, Vincent blinked once, slowly. His shoulders dropped, like something inside him snapped quietly. "Your Honor," the defense attorney rose. "We'd like to request—" "No," Judge Quincy cut him off. "Mr. Lawson already has a prior misdemeanor on his record. This city is drowning under repeat offenders. The court will not show leniency." "That was a parking ticket from 12 years ago," the attorney snapped, the first crack in his professional politeness. "He paid the fine, Your Honor." Nicholas Quincy's gaze swept to the packed gallery. Reporters scribbling. Community activists watching. Police in uniform lining the back wall. "Actions have consequences," he said, more to the room than to the man in chains. Mr. Lawson chose to endanger an officer's life. This court chooses to protect this community. He lifted the gavel. I hereby sentence the defendant to 30 years in state prison. The sound of the gavel slamming down cracked through Camila's chest like lightning. "Daddy!" she screamed before she even knew she was standing. She rushed toward the rail, but a bailiff stepped in front of her. "No! Daddy! Tell them! Tell them you didn't do it!" Vincent twisted against his handcuffs as the deputies grabbed his arms. "Baby! It's okay! It's okay, Pumpkin! It is not okay!" she shrieked. "You're lying! You're all lying!" The courtroom buzzed. Gasps, murmurs, camera shutters clicking like insects. Judge Quincy's jaw tightened. "Remove her from the courtroom," he said quietly. A woman's hand clamped down on her shoulder, her mother, Luna Yates, eyes shining with tears but voice steady. "Camila, stop." Camila blinked, thrown. "Mom, how can you—" "Baby, please," Luna's voice broke. "Don't give them another reason to hurt us." Sebastian Jennings didn't look back at them. Porter Walker did. His eyes met Camila's for a heartbeat, full of something she would only later recognize as shame. Then he stood as the deputies led Vincent away. "Daddy!" Camila screamed again, throat tearing, feet dragging against the polished floor. "I'll fix it! I promise! I'll fix it!" Judge Nicholas Quincy watched, impassive, as the girl's cries echoed off the walls and faded into the corridor. That night, as rain battered the courthouse windows, he signed the final paperwork with a hand that did not shake. He told himself he had done his duty. He told himself the evidence was enough. He told himself her eyes would stop haunting him. He was wrong about all three. 7 years later, the same city dressed itself in glitter and pretense. The ballroom of the Marion Hotel shimmered with crystal chandeliers and the soft clink of champagne flutes. A banner stretched across the far wall. Justice Gala, honoring a lifetime of service. Judge Nicholas Quincy. Nicholas sat in his custom wheelchair at the edge of the crowd, watching people orbit him like anxious satellites. He wore a perfectly tailored suit jacket, starched shirt, and a silk tie he hadn't tied himself. Below the waist, there was nothing but a neatly arranged wool blanket and silence. Luna Yates, now his law clerk and unofficial wrangler of logistics and emotions, leaned down. "You know you can skip the speeches if you want. We could blame, I don't know, phantom pain. Or your sudden discovery that these people are insufferable," he huffed. "They named this gala after me. It would be ungracious to flee my own shrine." "Your shrine has a cash bar," she muttered. "Pretty sure that cancels the sanctity." Her irreverence was one of the few things that still made the corners of his mouth twitch. After the accident, most people spoke to him with hushed tones and soft sympathy, like he might spontaneously shatter. Luna had shown up in his hospital room with a legal pad, 3 pens, and a stack of motions that needed his signature. "You're alive," she had said briskly. "I'm taking that as a sign you're not done being a pain in everyone's neck. Sign here." That was 6 months ago. Before that, there had been the screaming metal, the rain-slick highway, the headlights bleeding into white. He had left the courthouse late that night, angrily chewing on an article that called him the Iron Gavel, too harsh to heal the city. It was a profile about his decades on the bench. It focused on his high sentencing averages, his tough-on-crime rhetoric. It mentioned, with barely concealed contempt, the disproportionate number of black defendants in his courtroom. He'd thrown the paper onto the passenger seat. He hadn't seen the truck in time. The impact shattered glass, ripped steel, and spun the world. When it finally stopped, Nicholas found he couldn't move his legs. Not even a twitch. The surgeons had done what they could. "Incomplete spinal cord injury," Dr. Ahmed had explained, voice gentle but clinical. "We'll do everything to maximize your function, but—" He hesitated. You should prepare for the possibility that walking independently may not be realistic. Nicholas had looked at his still feet, at the empty horizon of his body, and felt a cold that went deeper than the morphine could reach. He had sentenced men to life before. Now he understood that particular eternity. "Judge Quincy!" A familiar voice yanked him back to the present. Sebastian Jennings, now the elected district attorney, approached with a practiced smile and a glass in hand. "There he is, the man of the hour." Nicholas's jaw tightened. Sebastian had aged well, a few more lines at the eyes, some silver at the temples, but the same unshakable confidence. "Mr. District Attorney," Nicholas said, "still riding the wave of locking everyone up?" Sebastian laughed. "Hey, it worked for both of us, didn't it?" Luna watched them, eyes narrowing slightly. Porter Walker stood a bit behind Sebastian, a heavier man now, shoulders stooped. His uniform was replaced by a dark suit, but the badge was still clipped at his belt. His eyes flicked to Nicholas's wheelchair and away. "Judge," Porter said quietly. "Detective Walker now," Sebastian added, clapping him on the shoulder. "He's made quite the career out of bringing in your defendants." Nicholas offered a tight nod. "Congratulations." Silence stretched. The band in the corner started playing something soft and forgettable. People drifted past, some looking at Nicholas with open curiosity, others deliberately not looking at all. "Speech is in 20, Luna murmured, checking the program. "Want to practice?" "I know how to string words together," he said dryly. "I've been doing it while people's lives hang in the balance for 30 years. "Yeah," she said, not unkindly. "I know." Their eyes met for a moment longer than comfortable. Then Luna straightened. "I'll go bully the AV guy into making sure your microphone actually works." She walked away, leaving Nicholas temporarily alone. He watched Sebastian glad hand donors, watched Porter hover at the edge of conversations, watched the crowd swirl. For the first time, he noticed how many servers there were. Young, tired eyes behind polite smiles. Dark skin carrying trays of crystal for people who would never learn their names. How many of them have stood in front of my bench, he wondered. The thought unsettled him. He was still chewing on it when the world lurched. A flash of light, not from the press cameras, sharper, hotter. For a split second, Nicholas thought it was another accident, another collision. Then the sound hit, an ear-splitting crack. The chandeliers flickered, then went out entirely. The band cut off mid-note. People screamed. An electrical surge, someone shouted. A pop from the speakers. For a moment, chaos reigned. In the darkness, someone bumped into Nicholas's chair hard enough to jolt his back. Pain flared down his spine, white-hot. He gritted his teeth. Emergency lights flickered on, casting the room in red. The hotel staff scrambled. Guests muttered angrily. Someone laughed too loudly to hide their fear. "Is everyone all right?" Luna appeared at his side, slightly breathless. "They said something about a blown transformer outside." Nicholas exhaled slowly. "Apparently the universe is bored with irony and is moving on to symbolism." She snorted. "Power outage at the Justice Gala. Yeah, that tracks." The evening sputtered on under dim lights. The glamour drained away. Nicholas gave a shortened speech from his chair, the words tasting hollow in his mouth. Service, sacrifice, rule of law, applause, cameras. Something inside him stayed dark. On the ride home, with Luna driving his specially modified SUV, rain hammered the windshield. Streetlights smeared across the glass like tears. "They're going to ask you to come back full-time," Luna said, eyes on the road. "You know that, right? Retired or not, you're still their trophy." "I'm done," he said. "They can put someone else in the costume." "You don't believe that." He stared at his reflection in the side window, a man carved from stone and shadow. "I used to think I knew what justice was," he said quietly. "I'm not sure anymore." It was the first time he'd said it out loud. The words hung between them, fragile. Maybe, Luna said. That's exactly why you need to come back. He didn't answer. He didn't know that 2 days later, a young black woman would walk into his rehab center with a proposition that would shatter whatever certainty he had left, and finally drag a 7-year-old ghost into the light. The rehab center didn't smell like a hospital. It smelled like rubber mats, disinfectant, and determination. Nicholas hated it. He sat in the parallel bars, sweat beading on his forehead, as the physical therapist, a kind-eyed woman named Rena, braced his hips. "Just a weight shift today," she said. "No heroics." "Disappointing," he muttered. "I wore my cape and everything." She smiled. "Shift to the right, slowly." He gripped the bars, focusing on the faint whisper of sensation in his thighs. The doctors called his injury incomplete, which meant there was some neural pathway left, some thread of hope they dangled like a carrot in front of a starving man. He shifted his weight. His right leg trembled almost imperceptibly. "Good," Rena said. "Hold it. 5, 4, 3. The door to the gym clicked open. "Excuse me," Luna's voice carried across the room. "Nicholas, I know you hate interruptions, but there's someone who insists she needs to talk to you in person." "Today." Nicholas gritted his teeth, holding the position. "Tell her to file a motion like everyone else." "She's not a lawyer," Luna said. "Then tell her to—" "I think you should at least hear what she wants," Luna insisted. Rena glanced between them. "We can break here," she said gently. "You did good." He almost snapped that it wasn't good. Good would be standing, walking, not being hoisted into his chair like a crate. But he swallowed it. Rena didn't deserve his bitterness. Once settled back in his wheelchair, he wheeled himself to the small consultation room off the gym. Luna held the door open, her expression careful. A woman stood by the window, hands clasped tightly in front of her. She wore faded jeans and a plain button-down shirt, the kind you bought on sale because you didn't have the luxury of liking clothes. Her hair was pulled back into a low bun, a few curls escaping. Her skin was the deep brown of brewed coffee, her eyes sharp and watchful. She looked at him once, really looked, and something in her gaze burned. Nicholas felt a flicker of recognition, then lost it. "This is Camila Turner," Luna said. "She asked for you by name." Nicholas rolled closer, studying her. "Have we met?" "Yes," she said. Her voice was steady, but there was an edge to it, like she was holding back a storm. "I don't recall," he said. "I've had thousands of defendants in my courtroom." "I wasn't a defendant," she said. "I was the child you had removed." Memory slammed into him. Tiny sneakers dragging on polished floors, a girl screaming, "Daddy, I'll fix it." A woman restraining her, a man in chains being led away, Vincent Lawson's daughter. "You're Camila," she said. "Vincent Lawson's daughter. The man you gave 30 years for a robbery he didn't commit." Luna inhaled sharply. Nicholas's stomach clenched. "I don't discuss closed cases outside of proper legal channels," he said automatically. "If you want to appeal—" "We already tried," she cut in. "The appeal was denied. You signed the denial without a hearing." Luna's eyes flicked to him. Nicholas kept his face neutral, though heat crept up his neck. "Why are you here, Ms. Turner?" he asked. Camila stepped closer, the fluorescent lights catching faint silver threads in the necklace around her throat. A small, cheap pendant shaped like a wrench. "I know you're paralyzed," she said bluntly. "Incomplete spinal cord injury at T10. Limited motor function in your lower extremities. Doctors say you might regain some movement with aggressive intervention, but full recovery is unlikely." Nicholas bristled. "My medical records are private." "They are," she said. "But rehab centers talk. Nurses have cousins, cousins have barbers, barbers have girlfriends who went to high school with me. The city is not as big as you think." Luna shifted, half impressed, half alarmed. "I'm not here to insult you," Camila continued. I'm here to offer you a deal. He almost laughed. A deal? You're what, 19? 20? 20, she said, and I work in neuro rehab. I'm not a doctor yet, but I'm an assistant in a research program at County General. We're trialing an intensive protocol that combines traditional PT, electrical stimulation, VR-assisted gait training, and cognitive behavioral rewiring around pain and limitation. She lifted her chin. I've seen it help people the doctors had already filed away as hopeless cases. Nicholas narrowed his eyes. This is a certified program? It's in phase 2 trials, she said. There are hoops, but I know how to get people into it. I know how to tailor home-based regimens around it. I know how to push when everyone else is scared of pushing too hard. And this is the part where you ask for money, he said, bitterness coating his tongue. Because I can tell you up front, I don't buy miracles. I'm not selling you a miracle, she said. I'm selling you work. Her gaze didn't flinch. And I'm not asking for money. He frowned. Then what? She took a breath. The air in the room seemed to tighten. Free my dad, she said, each word clear as glass. And I'll heal you. There was a beat of stunned silence. Then Luna let out an incredulous half-laugh. I'm sorry, what? Nicholas barked out a humorless chuckle. Do you have any idea how absurd that sounds? Camilla's hands trembled. She clasped them tighter. You have influence. Even retired, your signature still means something. You can request a review. You can reopen his case. You can actually read the evidence this time. Her voice sharpened. You can admit you were wrong. Luna's gaze snapped to Nicholas. She doesn't know how it works, she started. But Nicholas's mind was already whirring. Request a review, reopen the case. The very idea made his chest feel tight. To publicly question his own judgment. To admit he may have condemned an innocent man. I will not be blackmailed over a sentence I passed according to the law, he said. And I will certainly not trade judicial integrity for experimental physical therapy. Camilla's eyes flashed. Integrity? She echoed. Is that what you call it? Her voice rose, fissures forming in her calm. You didn't care that the security footage was grainy. You didn't care that the timeline didn't add up, that the store owner changed his description 3 times. You had a black man, a scared community, a wounded cop, and a tough-on-crime reputation to protect. You cared about the headline. That's enough, Luna said softly. But it wasn't enough, was it? Camila pressed, stepping closer to Nicholas's chair. Because you remember me. You remember dragging me out while I screamed. You remember my dad looking at you like you'd ripped his lungs out. Nicholas's hand tightened on the armrest. The room seemed smaller. The program I work with has a 90% adherence failure, she went on. You know why? Because nobody fights as hard as a person who believes they deserve to be whole. You don't believe that yet. That's why your therapy barely scratches the surface. He stiffened. You don't know anything about I know you signed my father's appeal denial without a hearing, she said quietly. And I know that somewhere between the accident and now, you started doubting if that pen was always right. Her words hit like a gavel. Out in the hallway, someone laughed loudly. The sound seeped into the room, jarring. So, here's my offer, Camila said. You petition, formally, for a review of my father's case. You put your name on it. You sit in that room when they go through what you missed. Her voice shook, but she kept going. You do that, and I will commit every skill, every hour, every favor I have to your rehabilitation. I will drag you through every painful centimeter. I will fight for you the way I wish someone had fought for my dad. Luna stared at her, astonished. You'd help the man who sentenced my father, Camila finished. Yes, because if he rots in prison and you rot in that chair, then the system wins twice. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Nicholas laughed. It burst out of him, harsh and disbelieving. "This is insane," he said. "A child playing therapist, lecturing me about justice in a rehab gym. Do you hear yourself?" Rena, passing by the half-open door, glanced in with a puzzled look. A couple of other patients in wheelchairs behind her craned their necks, curiosity piqued. "You'll heal me?" Nicholas scoffed. "Girl, they told me I'll never walk again, and your father is a convicted felon." From the hallway, someone snorted. One of the orderlies whispered, "She thinks she's some kind of miracle worker." A few scattered chuckles. Not cruel exactly, but dismissive. The sound wrapped around Camila like barbed wire. She swallowed. Her eyes shone, but she did not look away. "You can laugh," she said softly. "You laughed at my dad when he said he was innocent too. But here's what I know. You are not just paralyzed in your legs, Judge Quincy. You are paralyzed in your conscience." The laughter faded. She stepped so close he could see the faint scar on her chin, the tiny flecks of gold in her irises. "You free Vincent Lawson," she whispered, "and I'll prove you were wrong about both of you." Then she turned and walked out, shoulders stiff, head high. Luna exhaled slowly. "Nicholas!" "Don't!" he snapped. But as the door swung shut behind Camila, the room felt emptier than it had in months. The buzzing fluorescent lights, the distant clank of weights, the murmur of therapists, they all receded beneath the echo of her words. You started doubting if that pen was always right. For the first time since the accident, pain shot through him that had nothing to do with his spine. He stared at the door she'd walked through, jaw clenched. "Get me Lawson's file," he said hoarsely. Luna blinked. "What?" "You heard me." She hesitated. "Nicholas, reopening a case like that, it's not simple. It could blow back on you, on your whole record." "Get me the file," he repeated, steel seeping back into his voice. "If I'm going to refuse her, I'm going to do it with facts in front of me, not ghosts." Luna studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Okay," she said. "I'll get it." As the door closed again, Nicholas Quincy sat alone in the rehab room, feeling the weight of a decision he had not yet made, pressing down on his chest. Outside, somewhere in the city, a man named Vincent Lawson counted the days on cinderblock walls, unaware that a crack had just appeared in the foundation of the judgment that buried him. And the girl who had promised to fix everything wiped her eyes on the back of her hand, squared her shoulders, and whispered to herself, "You started this, Camila. Now make him see." The file was thicker than Nicholas remembered. It sat on his kitchen table like a crouched animal, worn edges, paper slightly yellowed. The sticker on the front read, "State v. Lawson, Vincent." Luna dropped a coffee beside him and slid into the chair opposite. "You sure about this?" she asked. "No," he said. "Open it." She did. Photographs spilled out first, grainy security stills of a small corner store. The robber in the image wore a hoodie and cap pulled low, face half turned, caught between frames. "Enhance," Nicholas muttered out of habit, then grimaced. "We didn't have half the tech back then that we do now." Luna studied the photo. "Even if we had, would anyone have asked for it?" He didn't answer. There were reports. Officer Porter Walker's incident statement, the victim's statement, lab reports, a short memo from the DA's office, and there, clipped to the back, the appellate brief. "Here," Luna said, tapping a page. "The appeal claim. They argued ineffective counsel and new alibi evidence." Nicholas scanned the summary. Employer confirmation, time card discrepancies, cell phone location data. His stomach tightened. "Why don't I remember this?" Luna flipped to the last page, a single paragraph in his own handwriting. "Petition denied for lack of new exculpatory evidence," she read. "Record clearly supports jury's verdict." Her eyes lifted slowly. "You wrote that." He stared at his own neat script, a ghost pressing its hand to the glass of the present. Where are the exhibits? He asked quietly. The actual time cards, the employer affidavit, the phone records? They're not here, Luna said. They should be. It references them, but... She checked the folder again, flipped through twice to be sure. Nothing. The clerk's office could have misfiled, she offered, but there was doubt in her voice. Or, Nicholas said slowly, they were never attached. He thought of Sebastian Jennings, young, hungry, talking about being tough on crime at press conferences, of his own speeches about sending a message, of how quickly his pen had moved when he believed he already knew the truth. He closed the file with a sharp snap. "Call Walker," he said. "Tell him I want to talk, off the record." Detective Porter Walker arrived an hour later, rain dampening the shoulders of his suit. He looked older up close, eyes shadowed, hair thinning at the temples. "I thought you were done bothering with old cases, Judge," he said, dropping into a chair. "I thought you were sure Lawson was our guy," Nicholas replied. Porter's jaw clenched. "You reviewed the file?" "The parts I have," Nicholas said. "Some pieces appear to have vanished, like the exhibits attached to the appeal. You testified you saw Lawson fleeing the store on a rainy night from 30 feet away." "I did," Porter said, "with a hoodie up and a cap, and if I recall, poor street lighting." Porter's gaze dropped to his hands. His thumb picked at an invisible hangnail. "Why did you pick Lawson out of the lineup, Detective?" Nicholas pressed. "He had no record beyond a parking ticket. It wasn't his neighborhood, and the store owner changed his description 3 times before settling on your suspect." Porter's voice was flat. "Because the DA said we needed a solid arrest. Community was already on edge. They wanted a name they could print by morning." "Sebastian," Nicholas said. Porter's silence was answer enough. "He never told you to lie," Nicholas guessed. "He just reminded you the department was watching. Promotions, media pressure. Don't let him walk." Porter flinched like Nicholas had struck him. "I wasn't sure," he admitted, voice barely above a whisper. "I thought, maybe, and maybe was all anyone wanted." Nicholas looked at him for a long time. "Do you think about him?" he asked. "Lawson." "Every time I drive past the prison," Porter said. "Every time my kid asks me if all the people we lock up are really bad." Nicholas's chest tightened. "Mine ask me that too," he murmured. "Or they used to." He pushed the file toward Porter. "Look at this appeal summary. There's mention of time cards showing Lawson was still clocked in at the garage when the robbery started. Cell phone pings on the opposite side of town." Porter's eyes widened as he read. "I never saw any of this." "I denied the petition," Nicholas said, "on the basis that this evidence didn't change the record. Evidence I apparently never read." The words were acid in his mouth. "Judge!" Porter swallowed. "What are you going to do?" Nicholas stared at his own signature on the denial stamp. For 30 years, his name had meant finality. Now it felt like a door that might have to open again. "I'm going to do something I should have done years ago," he said. "I'm going to ask if I was wrong." Porter's gaze flicked up. Fear warred with relief in his eyes. "If I come forward," he said slowly, "if I say I wasn't sure, that I felt pressured, it'll blow up my career, my pension, everything." "It may," Nicholas agreed. "And if Lawson is innocent, then the alternative is that he's paying for your certainty with his life." Porter closed his eyes. "I have a daughter," he said hoarsely. "She's about Lawson's girl's age was back then. I can't look at her some nights. I just see that kid screaming in court." Nicholas's breath caught. "She came to see me," he said softly. "Camila. She offered me a deal." He relayed her words. "Free my dad and I'll heal you." When he finished, Porter stared at him like he was looking at a ghost. "She's going to get hurt," Porter said. If this goes public, people don't like it when their heroes crack. Maybe they need to, Nicholas answered. Silence stretched, thick with years of unspoken guilt. Finally, Porter exhaled. If you move to reopen, he said, I'll testify. I'll tell the truth. All of it. Sebastian won't like that, Nicholas said. Sebastian stopped caring about what was right a long time ago, Porter replied. Maybe it's time the rest of us stop caring what he likes. That night, Nicholas stared at the blank motion template on his laptop. His fingers hovered over the keys. Just write it, Luna said, leaning against the doorway. First sentence. The rest will follow. This isn't just about Lawson, he said. If I admit I might have been wrong once. People will start asking where else, she finished. Yeah, they might. He looked up at her. You're not exactly selling this as a great idea. I'm not your PR agent, she said. I'm your clerk, and your friend, and the woman who watched that girl walk into your rehab center and hand you more courage than half this city has. She crossed the room, laid a hand on his shoulder. Write it, she said. Otherwise, you'll stay in that chair even if your legs start working tomorrow. He looked back at the screen. Comes now the Honorable Nicholas Quincy, retired, and respectfully petitions this court to reopen. The keys clicked, slow at first, then faster. Each word felt like a brick removed from a wall he'd built around his conscience. When he finished, his hands were shaking. Luna read over his shoulder, eyes widening. You're putting yourself in it. You're acknowledging potential judicial error. Responsibility, he said quietly. Isn't that what we put on other people every day? She didn't answer, but her hand squeezed his shoulder harder. He hit print. As the machine whirred to life, Nicholas felt a strange, painful lightness. Something was moving. The next day, he wheeled himself into the rehab gym where Camila was adjusting the settings on a treadmill built into an exoskeleton frame. She glanced up, startled, then wary. You have 5 minutes, she said. I'm on my break. I filed the petition, he said. Her hands froze. What? I asked the court to reopen your father's case, he said. Cited missing evidence, potential procedural errors, reliance on possibly unreliable eyewitness testimony. I referenced my own role. Shock flickered across her face, chased quickly by suspicion. Why? Because you were right, he said simply. I may have been wrong, and that means the law owes your father another look. She stared at him, searching for the catch. No conditions? She asked. No promises from me first? He shook his head. I don't trade justice for personal gain. Not anymore. For the first time, something in her gaze softened. You really filed it? She whispered. He pulled a folded copy from his jacket and held it out. She took it with trembling hands, eyes scanning the dense text. When she reached his signature at the bottom, her breath hitched. You put your name on it? She murmured. In ink. I always did, he said. That was the problem. She looked up. Okay, she said quietly. Then I'll put my name on something too. She stepped aside, gestured to the exoskeleton. Get in. Nicholas's gut lurched. Now? You came here, didn't you? She said. You started something. Let's see if your body can keep up with your conscience. He hesitated only a second before wheeling forward. As Camila and another therapist strapped his legs into the frame, adjusted harnesses and attached electrodes, Nicholas felt exposed in a way the courtroom had never made him feel. This was not about power, it was about vulnerability carved in metal and flesh. You're going to hate me, Camila warned, hands moving with surprising confidence as she calibrated the machine. I will push you, harder than they do. I will not let you quit just because it hurts. He swallowed. Good. She met his eyes, something fierce and fragile burning there. Then we have a deal, she said. No more half-justice, no more half-effort. She hit start. The machine hummed. His legs, encased in the exoskeleton, jerked once, then straightened. The harness lifted some of his weight. The treadmill moved, slow, forcing his body to mimic a walking pattern. Pain shot up his spine, hot and electric. He grunted, jaw clenched. "Breathe," Camila said sharply. "In through your nose, out through your mouth. Focus on the heel strike. Left, right. Feel it." He tried. For the first time since the accident, Nicholas Quincy's body lurched forward in something that, if you squinted and believed very hard, looked like a step. It wasn't pretty, it wasn't miraculous, but it was a start, and both of them knew it. The hearing drew more cameras than Nicholas expected. The courthouse hallway buzzed with reporters, activists, law students, former defendants, and curious citizens. Handwritten signs bobbed above the crowd. "Free Vincent Lawson. Justice reopened. No more iron gavel." Camila stood with her back against the cool marble wall, the petition clutched in one hand, a worn photograph of her father in the other. He smiled in the picture, grease on his cheek, arm slung around a much younger Camila wearing a paper crown that said Garage Princess. Luna approached, legal pad in hand. "They're about to call us in," she said. "Us?" Camila blinked. "You think he's doing this without you in the room?" Luna asked. "You started this fire." Through the courtroom doors, Camila could see the bench, occupied today by Judge Ellis, a stern woman with steel-gray hair and sharp eyes. Nicholas sat at the counsel table in his wheelchair, not in robes for the first time in that room. His hands rested on his knees, knuckles white. Across the aisle, Sebastian Jennings stood with two junior prosecutors, jaw tight. His polished confidence had a crack running through it today. Detective Porter Walker sat behind him, alone, eyes fixed on his hands. "You okay?" Luna asked Camila. "No," Camila said, "but I'm here." They stepped inside together. "All rise." The words hit Camila like a ghost. She stayed rooted for a beat longer, then forced herself upright with everyone else. Judge Ellis took her seat. "Be seated." She adjusted her glasses, scanning the room. "We are here on a rare and serious matter, a petition to reopen a closed criminal case, supported by sworn testimony from the original presiding judge. Let us proceed with the gravity this deserves." Her gaze fell on Nicholas. "Judge Quincy, Mr. Quincy, you may begin." Nicholas wheeled to the podium. The murmur in the courtroom swelled, then hushed. He cleared his throat. "For the record," he said, voice steady but quiet. "My name is Nicholas Quincy. I served as a judge in this courthouse for 30 years. I sentenced hundreds of people. Many of them deserved it. Some of them did not." A ripple passed through the room. "In the case of State v. Lawson," he continued, "I relied on incomplete evidence, a compromised eyewitness identification, and my own bias towards sending a message in a frightened community. I then denied Mr. Lawson's appeal without personally reviewing the new evidence submitted." He lifted a page. "That evidence included time cards and employer testimony placing Mr. Lawson at work at the time of the robbery, as well as cell phone location data. Those documents are referenced in the appellate record, but are missing from the physical file." He let that sink in. "It is my belief," he said, "that this court owes Mr. Lawson a full, transparent review, and that I owe him an apology on the record." Silence. Judge Ellis studied him. "Mr. Quincy," she said slowly, "are you suggesting prosecutorial misconduct?" He didn't look at Sebastian. "I'm suggesting that something went very wrong between that evidence being filed and this court's order denying relief. Whether that wrong was intentional or systemic negligence, I will leave to your investigation." Sebastian rose sharply. "Your Honor, with all due respect, this is—" "Sit down, Mr. Jennings," Judge Ellis said crisply. "You'll have your turn." He sat, jaw clenched. "Detective Porter Walker," Judge Ellis called, "please approach the stand." Porter looked like a man headed to his own sentencing as he took the oath and sat. "Detective," the reviewing prosecutor asked. You were the arresting officer in the Lawson case. Do you stand by your identification of the defendant as the perpetrator? Porter swallowed. He looked out at the gallery. His eyes found Camila, then Vincent at the defense table. Older, thinner prison uniform exchanged for a simple shirt and slacks, hands still bearing the faint print of shackles. Porter's voice shook. No, he said. I don't. A gasp rippled through the room. Explain, the prosecutor said. Porter's words came halting at first, then smoother as if a dam had broken. It was raining that night, he said. Visibility was bad. I saw a figure in a hoodie running. I chased, lost him in the alley. Later we picked up Mr. Lawson a few blocks away because he looked like the guy. He was black, wearing a dark jacket in the general area. That was enough for us back then. Shame flicked across his face. In the lineup, I was nudged, he continued. The DA's office reminded me which face belonged to the man we'd arrested. Reminded me of the community pressure, the headlines. I convinced myself I was sure because everyone needed me to be. He took a shaky breath. I was not sure. I should never have testified otherwise. And when new evidence came in questioning the timeline, I signed off on the DA's memo dismissing it as irrelevant without reading half of it. Who wrote that memo? The prosecutor asked. Porter's eyes slid to Sebastian. Assistant DA Sebastian Jennings. The courtroom exploded, murmurs, exclamations, reporters scribbling. Judge Ellis banged her gavel. Order! I said order! Sebastian shot to his feet. Your Honor, this is outrageous! Detective Walker is trying to rewrite history to save his own conscience. Sit. Down, Judge Ellis repeated, eyes flashing. He sat, lips pressed thin. The defense attorney, assigned by the Innocence Project now taking Lawson's case, rose. Detective, she said mildly, have you been promised anything in exchange for your testimony today? No, Porter said. If anything, I'm probably destroying my career. Then why are you here? She asked. He looked again at Camila, at Vincent. Because I have a daughter, he said simply, and I don't want her to grow up thinking the only way our system works is by breaking people who look like her neighbors. A lump rose in Camila's throat. She blinked hard. Next came the expert witness from the Innocence Project, an analyst who showed enhanced stills from the original security footage, now processed with modern software. The perpetrator's build appears significantly narrower in the shoulders than Mr. Lawson's, even accounting for camera distortion, she testified. And based on timestamps, the robber fled the scene at 8:05 p.m. Mr. Lawson's employer records show him clocked in and actively working a time-stamped job ticket at 8:08 p.m., a 15-minute drive away in good traffic. The room held its breath. Finally, Sebastian was called. He walked to the stand like a man walking a tightrope. Mr. Jennings, the reviewer asked, did your office receive the alibi and phone records referenced in the appellate file? We received documents, yes, Sebastian said cautiously. Did you personally review them? I delegated to a junior. Did you sign the response dismissing them as non-exculpatory? The prosecutor pressed. Sebastian's jaw flexed. Yes, that's standard practice. We see dozens of jailhouse alibis. Was this one fabricated? The prosecutor cut in. No, Sebastian snapped. The employer seemed credible, but, the prosecutor repeated. But reopening every borderline case would collapse the system, Sebastian said, exasperation bleeding through. We have to prioritize. We had a wounded cop, a scared neighborhood, a jury verdict. I made a call. A call that may have cost an innocent man 7 years of his life, the prosecutor said. Sebastian's eyes flashed. We can't run a system on endless doubt. We'd never close a file. Nicholas flinched at the word doubt. Maybe, the prosecutor said quietly. We're about to learn the cost of closing them too quickly. Judge Ellis leaned forward. Mr. Jennings, she said, did you or did you not instruct your staff to deprioritize alibi evidence in cases where the defendant had already been publicly portrayed as guilty? Sebastian hesitated. Just long enough. I advised them not to chase phantoms, he said. This city needed to believe we were in control, that we were strong. There it is, Luna whispered to Camila. The truth shapeshifted into a policy. The Innocence Project attorney, a woman with calm eyes like a deep lake, rose for redirect. Mr. Jennings, she said, do you know what Mr. Lawson's daughter said to Judge Quincy in his rehab facility? He stiffened. No, and I failed to see. She said, free my dad and I'll heal you, the attorney continued. Would you agree that, in a sense, both of them were injured by a system more invested in appearances than accuracy? Sebastian's mouth opened, closed. He glanced at Nicholas, at Camila, at the packed gallery. For a flicker of a moment, something like regret crossed his face and was gone. I did my job, he said finally. No further questions, the attorney said softly. When it was Vincent Lawson's turn, the courtroom felt like it was breathing with him. He took the stand slowly, shoulders stiff from years of prison beds. His voice was rough but clear. I didn't rob that store, he said. I've said that from day one, but after a while it stops mattering what you say. They put felon next to your name, and that's the story they want. He glanced at Nicholas. I hated you, he said bluntly. I'm not going to pretend I didn't. I watched my daughter cry herself to sleep for months, then watched her turn into someone who didn't cry at all. You did that. Nicholas swallowed hard. But, Vincent continued, eyes shifting to Camila, she never stopped believing somebody would listen. Not to me, to the truth. He drew a breath that seemed to come from somewhere far deeper than his lungs. So I'm here, he said, not just for me. For every person who didn't get a judge to say, maybe I was wrong. Because if this can be undone, even a little, maybe there's hope for the rest of them too. Camila's vision blurred. She felt a hand slip into hers, Luna's. They stood like that as testimony ended, as closing arguments washed over them. Finally, Judge Ellis called a recess to deliberate. The courtroom emptied into the hallway's tense buzz. Camila found herself outside, leaning against a pillar, sucking in cold air like she'd been underwater. Nicholas's wheelchair rolled up beside her. You did this, he said quietly. She laughed weakly. If this goes wrong, I'm going to feel really guilty about that. He looked out at the steps where protesters and supporters mingled. Whatever happens, he said, it needed to come to light. She studied him. Can I ask you something? She said. Of course. When you sentenced my dad, she said, did you ever doubt? Even a little? He stared at his still legs, at his hands. Yes, he said. But I called it caution. Then I buried it under speeches about strength. He met her gaze. I don't deserve your help, he said, but I'm going to take it. Not because I want to walk again, though I do. Because I need to learn how to live with what I've done, without letting it paralyze me a second time. Tears stung her eyes. Good, she said roughly. Because I didn't offer to heal you because you're deserving. I offered because if we wait for that, nobody gets better. A clerk appeared at the door. They're back, she said. Camila's heart slammed against her ribs. Come on, Nicholas murmured. Let's see if the system remembers how to breathe. The courtroom was so quiet. Camila could hear her pulse. Judge Ellis's face gave nothing away as she shuffled her notes and looked out over the crowd. In State v. Lawson, she began, this court has reviewed newly presented evidence, testimony from key witnesses, and troubling discrepancies in the handling of exculpatory material. Her gaze flicked to Sebastian, then to Nicholas, then to Vincent. "It is the ruling of this court," she said, "that the conviction of Vincent Lawson cannot stand." The air shattered. Gasps, sobs, a shout of joy from somewhere in the gallery. Camila couldn't breathe. For a second, the world tilted. Then she was moving, pushing past the wooden rail, half sobbing, half laughing, as she reached her father. Vincent stood there, stunned, as if his body didn't know how to process freedom. "Daddy," she choked out. He caught her, arms wrapping around her in a grip that trembled. "You did it," he whispered into her hair. "Baby, you did it. You did." She shook her head against his chest. "We did it. All of us." On the bench, Judge Ellis's voice cut through the moment. "Furthermore," she said, "this court recommends an independent investigation into the practices of the district attorney's office during Mr. Lawson's original prosecution and appeal, including potential violations of Brady v. Maryland regarding exculpatory evidence." Sebastian's face drained of color. Karma didn't come as a punch or a car crash this time. It came as a line in a ruling, as a recommendation that would ripple outward into inquiries, ethics hearings, possible disbarment, a new way for consequences to walk. "As for Mr. Quincy," Judge Ellis continued, "this court acknowledges the unusual and commendable step of a former judge publicly questioning his own ruling. It does not erase the harm done, but it may serve as a beginning of repair." Heads turned toward Nicholas. He wheeled himself forward, throat tight. "Mr. Lawson," Judge Ellis said, "do you wish to address the court before you are formally released?" Vincent looked at her, then at Nicholas, then at the gallery. "No," he said. "I think I've said enough words the last 7 years. I'd rather spend the next 70 showing who I really am." She nodded. "Then this court orders the immediate release of Vincent Lawson. You are free to go." The words hit like sunlight breaking through thick cloud. Outside, on the courthouse steps, cameras flashed. "Mr. Lawson! Mr. Lawson!" reporters shouted. "Do you forgive the system? Do you forgive Judge Quincy? Do you forgive Detective Walker?" Vincent squinted against the glare. "Forgiveness isn't a soundbite," he said. "Ask me in 10 years. They laughed, but there was no mockery in it this time. Camila stood beside him, one hand in his, the other resting on the back of Nicholas's wheelchair. Luna hovered nearby, running interference with the more aggressive reporters. A microphone swung toward Camila. "Miss Turner, you told Judge Quincy, 'Free my dad and I'll heal you.' Do you still intend to keep that promise?" Camila looked down at Nicholas. His eyes met hers. In them she saw exhaustion, guilt, fear, and something new. Determination. "Yes," she said into the microphone. "Because if this story stops here, it's just a plot twist. I want it to be a turning point." "What does healing a judge look like?" another reporter called. Camila smiled faintly. "Come to the rehab center next month," she said. "You might see." They met in the gym at dawn. It was quieter then. Just Rena, a few early bird patients, the whir of machines. The exoskeleton stood waiting like some futuristic suit of armor. "Big day," Rena murmured as she checked straps. "First unassisted trial." "Of course you picked a day with cameras," Nicholas muttered at Camila. She shrugged. "Accountability, remember? Also, my dad wants to see you try not to fall on your face." Vincent stood near the entrance, wearing clothes that didn't have a prison logo for the first time in years. Porter hovered beside him, hands jammed in his pockets, as if unsure where he belonged. "You sure you want him here?" Nicholas asked under his breath. Camila nodded. "He needs to see this too." Once Nicholas was strapped in, Camila moved to his side. "Okay," she said. "We've been here before. Today the harness does less. You do more." His heart hammered. "Breathe," she reminded him. "This is just another step, literally." The machine hummed to life. His legs, guided but not carried, shifted forward. Pain flared, sharp and insistent. He grunted. You can stop any time, Rena said. He can't, Camila replied. He signed a motion. There's no undo button. Nicholas snorted despite himself. You have a terrible bedside manner. And yet, here you are, she shot back. Step, step. Each one was an argument between gravity and will. Halfway down the treadmill, his left knee buckled. The harness caught him, but his stomach lurched. I can't, he started. Yes, you can, Camila said firmly. You walked into a courtroom and told them you might have been wrong. You can walk 3 more steps for yourself. He clenched his teeth. Step. His right leg moved. His foot landed, not gracefully but solidly. Step. The left followed, jittery but held. One more. Everything in him screamed. Old pride, new humility, bone-deep fear. He dragged them all forward with him. Step. The treadmill slowed to a stop. For a second, nobody spoke, but he. Then the rehab gym filled with applause. Patients, therapists, even a couple of janitors clapped. Rena wiped at her eyes. Vincent laughed, a sound rough from disuse but bright with something like hope. Porter stared, then did something unexpected. He clapped too. Nicholas, breathing hard, let his head fall back and laughed. It wasn't a triumphant, movie-ending kind of laugh. It was raw, a little broken, but real. Camila unstrapped him carefully. As the exoskeleton released its hold, he sagged into the wheelchair, sweat damp and shaking. That, he panted, was cruel. That, she corrected gently, was honest. She knelt so they were eye level. You know this doesn't fix everything, right? She said. My dad still lost 7 years. People you sentenced might still be in cells they shouldn't be in. I know, he said. We'll look at them. One by one. It'll be slow. It'll hurt. That's healing, she said. Not magic. Work. He nodded. Over her shoulder, he saw Vincent approach. The other man hesitated, then extended a hand. Nicholas looked at it. I can't promise I'll ever fully forgive you, Vincent said quietly, but I can promise I won't let what you did be the last word on who I am. Nicholas took his hand. I don't deserve forgiveness, he said. I'll settle for the chance to spend whatever years I have left making sure fewer people need it. Something shifted between them then, not erasure of harm, but acknowledgement of possibility. Karma, Nicholas realized, wasn't the universe staging dramatic crashes. It was the slow, relentless reveal of truth, and the demand that you respond to it. Sometimes it came as paralysis, sometimes as a petition, and sometimes as a young black woman who walked into your rehab room and refused to let you stay comfortable in your guilt. As the morning light slanted through the rehab windows, catching the sheen of sweat on his face, Nicholas Quincy realized that walking again, whether on 2 legs or in the integrity of his choices, would never be about erasing the past. It would be about carrying it forward differently, step by painful step. If you're still here, thank you for walking every step of this story. Tonight we watched a judge who thought he was unbreakable break. We watched a daughter refuse to be quiet, a father wait in the dark, and a system that loves its own power finally be forced into the light. Camila's words, "Free my dad and I'll heal you," weren't magic. They were a challenge. Take responsibility, face the truth, and let justice change you, not just punish others. Now I want to hear from you. Would you forgive Judge Nicholas? Do you think Vincent and Camila owe him anything at all? Comment your thoughts, your feelings, and what lesson hit you the hardest. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe so more people can hear stories where karma doesn't just destroy, it teaches, exposes, and transforms. Until next time, take care and choose truth, even when it hurts.